All right. Hi, Mom.
Hey,
Glad that we can actually see each other during times like this. And actually, I'm pretty happy. We're able to get someone that's really exciting on this podcast, someone that we've been working with for a while. It's someone that's been very influential around the world.
yeah,
Um,
this is really a kind of a real treat for everyone to be speaking with the person who we're going to be introducing to you really soon, and you're going to see how he has changed the world. So Nathan, yeah, perfect. So can you introduce him, please, so that we can get right to him and have as much time as possible?
sure. So the person, I've had many dinners with him. He's taken me around Pakistan, actually. So Mian Imran Masood, he's the former Minister of Education for Punjab, Pakistan, and is a senior parliamentarian who has held many important positions in the government of Pakistan. He has been involved in the policy making of being the elected member for the Provincial Assembly Punjab, Pakistan, holding different portfolios in different times. His focus has been in the area of education, health, human rights, women empowerment, environment, cultural, and heritage. He has been a strong supporter of enhancing and strengthening the concept of public-private partnership. Working in the education sector, he has been his strength in his long career of hard work and achievements. He has the honor of launching the biggest education reform program of Punjab in 2002, which was then adopted throughout Pakistan. Free education for every child, free textbooks for public sector students, and stipends for girl students who were announced for the first time in the history of Pakistan. The World Bank supported this education reform program as a partner. This reform program was rated as one of the best programs in the world in achieving the Millennium Development Goals. Mian Imran Masood has also made a policy for the quality enhancement and research in the education institutes. Higher Education Commission was promoted and strengthened in his time to monitor the universities of Pakistan. Many private universities were established in his time. He is representing various organizations in different capacities. He has traveled extensively all over the world, attending conferences and seminars. Currently, he is the Vice Chancellor of the University of South Asia, Lahore, Pakistan. And I've been to many of their campuses. And he's also the chairman of Gandhara Association of Art and Culture, Pakistan. He has recently been appointed as the member Punjab Higher Education Commission of Pakistan, which we brought him here because we want to know, well, at least I do, Mom, I don't know about yourself. I want to know all about the history. I want to know about his new position. I want to know what's going on the other side of the world. We're here in Toronto right now.
Okay, I guess you all heard that list. Did you hear? Like it went boom, 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 and then you think it would end, and it kept going and going and going. All these things that you have done. It's incredible. Welcome to our podcast.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Thank you, Nathan, for introducing me. And it's a long story. Am I audible to everybody? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, it's great. Thank you. All the way from Pakistan. This is great.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
where are you right now? Are you in Gujarat, Lahore?
I am in Lahore. Lahore.
Okay,
Lahore,
good.
Pakistan. Lahore is the provincial capital of of Punjab. Since Pakistan has, four provinces, and every province has a capital. So Lahore is like New York, like Paris,
Yeah.
like Toronto. It's one of the most cosmopolitan cities in the world. It's the cultural hub of Pakistan. It's also the educational hub of Pakistan. We do have many colleges which are more than about 160 years old, colleges and schools, and which have a long history of imparting the quality education in Lahore, Punjab, and Pakistan. Now, when
Can
you
you,
mention,
sorry.
you want to say something?
So that's okay. I'd like to, I would like to just cut in here for a second, if you don't mind, because
Sure.
there's so much that we want to talk about. The one thing I wanted to say to people is not only has Imran done a lot, but there is a situation where Imran invited Nathan and myself and a couple of other people to the provincial parliament to actually go in and watch that.
Yeah.
And I want to tell that little story because we walked in and we were given a full out, like it was like royalty. And what it was is when we went in also, that was just entering into the building. And then we were invited to sit in the office of the Speaker of the House.
Yep.
And we met some incredible people who have changed Pakistan as well and really influenced the direction of Pakistan where it was going. And then we were invited into Parliament. Well, I was expecting to go right at the top and sort of look over top like all the general public is allowed to do. Well, no, we were invited to sit right at the front. Now, what happened when we sat there too was that as people walked in, everybody, it didn't matter what side of the room they were on, they all bowed and they were so respectful, so pleased to see Imran. And that respect, I think, is something that is rare to see. And also it says so much about you, Imran. And I think that's, people can have a list of all the things that they've done, but to actually have the respect because they know you've done it for a good reason, everything you have done. And I know that you have helped so many people in Pakistan and helped Pakistan as a whole. So I am wondering, I think we can talk about education as well. I'd like to talk to you about you for a little while. Would that be okay?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Okay, great.
It'll be a pleasure.
Okay. Sometimes it's a little hard, but I would like to talk to you about
There's
you.
nothing to hide, nothing to hide. Come on,
Okay.
ask me questions.
Okay, super. All right. So, you've got this huge list. You have the respect of people wherever you go. And I'd like to know, out of all of what you have done, what would you consider was the biggest impact you have had on this world?
Well, you mentioned the day when we visited the biggest parliament, the biggest assembly of Pakistan, which has more than about 377 elected members sitting in that old building where you and I and Nathan, we went there. Now, where you sat was a very VVIP seats. It's called the governor's box, and nobody's allowed to sit there. It's actually sitting with the speaker.
Mm-hmm.
It's mostly the culture of hospitality that we have, and they had to welcome you also. Somebody who's visiting from Canada to Pakistani parliament or assemblies. This is normally they recognize the foreigners or any outside visitors. But to my good luck, we had the treasury benches and the opposition benches. It was a full house. The house was in session, and everybody was, saying hello to me, and they were trying to recognize me. Well, it comes with your performance, your parliamentary performance, your character, and your delivery, and any reform program that you have launched, which then becomes a success story. So people do remember the good work, and they all remember me even now. Now, I had faced the biggest challenges as a Minister of Education. The Ministry of Education of Punjab is one of the biggest ministries in the world, like Chinese, departments, like the American departments, like the Indian ministries, where you have a lot of population and the numbers are huge. It's a monstrous department. As I've already mentioned to you many times during our, chats that we had, I was heading 63,000 public schools, which were called the government schools, from grade 1 to grade 10. And obviously 250 schools, which were the high secondary schools. And I was dealing with more than 500 colleges and about 15 public universities. And the total students were 12.8 million students in the public sector only. Now, when we talk about the private sector has about more than 100,000 schools in Punjab. And the students are double the amount of which we have in the public sector. So the responsibility is huge. The challenges are, you can't even imagine how big is the challenge. the biggest challenge that I faced as a minister was the decreasing enrollment. The enrollment was going down in the public sector, and everybody was opting to go to the private sector. Private schools were more attractive, and the government schools were not that attractive. They were not attractive because there was no furniture in those schools. There were no boundary walls in those schools. These were the most dilapidated schools that we had, and the infrastructure was very poor. There was
So
no chair for students. Sorry, you want to ask something?
I'm going to ask you something because students are going to listen to this too. So if there's no tables and chairs,
Yes, ma'am.
how do kids go to school? How do they learn?
That was the biggest challenge. This is due with the poverty. These are the countries which are underdeveloped countries, countries which want to develop themselves, countries which did not focus much on education. They did not get any money to spend on this sector. The education sector was the most ignored sector in Punjab and Pakistan. The priority was roads, infrastructure, bridges, highways, and agriculture, since we are an agricultural economy. So this was a deprived sector. This was a ignored sector. And now one fine morning you become a minister and it really looks very attractive. Oh, you are the minister now. You're heading one of the biggest departments in the world. But the challenges that I faced were very horrific. The biggest challenge was that we had no enrollment.
Okay.
And the other biggest challenge that I had to face was the highest dropout rate in the world. Punjab had the biggest dropout rate. Out of 12.8 million students, 5 million students would drop out every year. They would go back to their homes and they were dropped out.
So why?
Why would they? Yeah, I'm coming to that point.
Okay.
So why would they go to their homes? Why were they pulled back by their parents? What were the reasons? Why did we had such a big dropout? That was the thing that I had to find out. So we started our program, and then we had the third challenge was the infrastructure. As I mentioned, no desks, no chairs. Out of 63,000 schools, 40,000 schools had no boundary wall, no toilets, no furniture, and no fans and no electricity. Can you imagine the amount of challenge that I had to face? Now the development budget was very, very poor. And in fact, I had no money to spend on the development sector. The only money that was available was 1 billion Pakistani rupees. The total budget of this department was 34 billion back in 2002.
And what
out of 34 billion, sorry.
1 billion Pakistan rupees. What is that in?
I don't know. How much is 1 billion Pakistani rupee in dollars?
Well, why don't we figure that out? Well, sorry.
I'll just come to that. Zoran is going to do the arithmetic since he's doing the math. He's the math guy. So getting money is a big challenge in Pakistani politics. Nobody gives you money just like that. It has to be a fantastic program. It has to be you need to do a lot of lobby to get these funds from the federal government, from the exchequer of Pakistan and Punjab, and where the government has different priorities. The priorities that we had in those times was the defense, was the situation between Pakistan and India. So money was being spent on getting the army more strengthened, and they were doing the arsenal and the weapons, and the money was going towards the defense. So to get money out of that budget was a big task. So my program that I designed was designed on very basic things which had logic, which had the empathy, which had the emotions, which had a direct relation with the future of young child of Pakistan, and the literacy rate of Pakistan was very low. Punjab had 42% of literacy rate in 2002. So my challenge was to bring that child who's out of school into the school, and then to have that child retained in the school. You know, he must stay in the school.
Okay,
And
so
then to,
sorry, can I just I'm going to just paint this picture a little bit
yes,
so that
yes,
kids understand too. So first of all, you've got this major problem because you don't have much money. And it sounds like $1 billion Pakistan rupees sounds like a lot, but it's actually only about 8 million Canadian dollars and even less American dollars. Now, some of you out there may think $8 million, that's a lot. But remember, how many students were there? How many millions of students? And if you think of 80,000 schools, which were just for the government schools, public schools, 80,000 schools. And if you think about it, and you may not realize that, but every school here in Canada has a budget of at least 1 million. So that would be, if you had 80,000 schools, you would multiply that by $80 million, Canadian dollars, and all you had was 8 million.
8 million, yes.
Okay, dollars.
Yes,
and that would mean that only 8 schools in Canada could be looked after.
Yes.
Okay, so I wanted to describe that, and that's kind of like, whoa, what do you do with so little money? Because you don't even have enough money to pay for teachers, right? And then you've got people who aren't seeing the value in education, and people aren't sending their kids. They want to send them back home. And then I think you've also got this issue, like there's no furniture in there, and you've got an issue of girls as well, which I've heard of in the past too.
I'm coming to that point.
Do? Okay, what did you do?
With all these challenges that I had, the other challenge was to enhance the girls' participation in the schools. The biggest dropout was amongst the girls in those selected 15 districts of Punjab. Punjab has 36 districts. It's like counties. You know, we had 36 counties, and since the population is huge in Punjab, population-wise, it's the biggest province, and area-wise also. We are second in area-wise. Balochistan is the biggest, province in area-wise. Now, in the far-flung places of Punjab, like when you get out of Toronto and you go to the border areas where there is less of education and more cultural issues, where people are very shy and they're not open community. So they would think that sending girls to schools was a waste of time. And the boys need to be educated, the girls are not supposed to be educated. So we were doing the women empowerment. We were also working on women development. And we thought that giving free education to these girls and giving stipends to these girls, this is going to be a road towards the women empowerment. So with all these challenges that I had, like decreasing enrollment and a high dropout rate and less of girls' participation, no infrastructure, a very low literacy rate of education in Punjab and Pakistan. So I had to design my reform program. It was a sectoral reform. The entire department had to be shaken up, and a new policy had to be designed. So I gave 3 big incentives. I announced free education for every child in Punjab for the first time in the history of Pakistan. We were talking about giving free education to every child. We won't charge them not even a single penny. So the entire education from grade 1 to grade 10 would be free. That's what I announced at the first instance. The second biggest announcement that I did was giving free books to every child. Now, printing those books, publishing those books, and having them packed, waterproof them, and then send them to the children. It was a big task, which I did actually. So free education we announced, we did the free books, and then I was giving 200 rupees pocket money as a stipend to young girls. This was the incentive that we gave to all our children. And then we were putting in money to the development sector, like doing the boundary walls and giving desks and chairs and giving them the basics. So these incentives, this new policy that I had announced, it showed wonderful results in the first years. So what happened in the first year when I did this announcement, I got 2.2 million new students coming into the government stream. Now this was a biggest world record. This became a world record. It had never happened in any part of the world where you would get such a big amount of students in 1 year's time. So this is the time when the World Bank was very much impressed by my program. They saw the seriousness of this program. They saw the commitment of the government, the commitment of the department. So they became my partners and they pooled in money. So my requirement was, coming back to the development budget, which I got was only 1 billion. And what I required to do all my school was 90 billion. I needed 90 billion in 1 year time, where I would do my entire infrastructure, whatever things I had in my mind, free books, stipends, free education, desk chairs, that required 90 billion. And I was only given 1 billion in a year. So I needed 90 years to do my reform program. You see, that was such a big challenge that I had to face. So World Bank came to my rescue. They chipped in money and they gave me about $300 million as a first, tranche of installment of money that came into my exchequer. So we started printing, publishing books, giving stipends to these young girls. The good news that I got in the first year was that the World Bank did a third-party evaluation of our program, which was done by DFID. DFID is an international agency of UK. It's a department which looks into the education sector. They give you money and it's a development like the USAID, like the CEDA, and the DFID was, so they did a third-party evaluation. They did the statistics, they recorded the enrollment, and it was 100% transparent, all those statistics which came after 1 year. So 2.2 million new students coming into our schools. My enrollment went higher and higher. Then I was doing the infrastructure. The money was given into the development sector. We started building, constructing those boundary walls. We started giving those furniture. My student would sit on the floor, with just a small carpet under his back. And it was it was not a good sight to see, one would feel so much about those children which were sitting on the floor and having no desk. Although these things were the basic right of a child to have a nice chair and a desk and electricity. So it started happening. The development program took off and it started showing results. Students were coming in, children were getting those furniture. We were doing electricity in those schools, giving decent washrooms, giving them drinking water, and doing the infrastructure. So I learned a lot in this challenge. It was a non-stop learning process that I went through. I could see the amount of challenge a poor family would have. Poverty was a basic reason of this massive dropout, because 60% of population was living below the poverty level. So we could not invite them because their basic issue was to earn bread and butter. So
Yeah.
giving education was a secondary, a thing for those parents. They wanted to look into their survival. Survival is to eat, not to send the children to the schools. So we said, just send the child to the school. We will not charge nothing. No penny will be taken from them. Everything was free. So that's how this program got started. It took off in a very nice way. The money was given in a very transparent manner. There was a huge amount of accountability, and the money was well spent. This was a 5-year program. So I did 5 years of my term as a minister, and so the World Bank was my partner. So after the second year of my program, Kim, this is very interesting now. After 2 years of my progress that I did, I got new students coming in, infrastructure was being built, new books were being published and printed. We did the revamping of the curricula. The new syllabus was adopted, and we wanted to match this government school with a private school, because people thought that the government schools are inferior and the private schools are superior because they're doing the English medium stream education. We were the Urdu medium stream. Urdu is our national language, and so English we would teach the students from grade 6 as a compulsory subject. So I brought this English down to grade 1 as a compulsory subject and a compulsory language. So 2 languages were given as compulsory: Urdu, the national language, and obviously English as an international language. This became a law that everybody has to do English and Urdu. Um, so then I said that all my schools are going to be now English medium schools. In fact, we gave them both options. Either you could do in Urdu, or you can do English medium,
Okay,
get
so
into English medium stream.
talk about that really quickly, about a couple of things with that. By providing kids with the English medium, it allows them to have access to so much more information, doesn't it?
Yes.
And when I say access, it's not just I can now go onto the internet. It means actually I can understand what is being said out there. And so therefore, you now can do something with that information. And I think for kids, it's really important for them to understand how important it is to have an international language. Because can you imagine being a poor person and all you hear is in one language that maybe even not Urdu, it could even be their local dialect of some
Native languages.
So you have to trust the understanding and any information that you get just from that local, and you don't have the ability to go out and find out information for yourself. So that English is critical, and it also allows those kids to be at the same level, at least have opportunities to open up to them at the
Yes.
same level as anybody else.
Yes,
That access to information. Yeah.
yeah.
So I just want to mention one more thing just before you go on, because this is very interesting and I don't mean to interrupt. I just want to also allow kids to see a couple of things. The first is you mentioned a couple of things like the boundary walls. And I just want to explain to kids in North America what boundary walls mean. In many parts of the world, you do have boundary walls, and that's literally a wall, like a concrete wall that
Yes.
goes around the property of the school. And it is about 10 feet high, minimum, maybe
Yep.
12 feet now.
Yep.
And it also, depending on the countries, it will even have wire on the top for security reasons.
Yes.
Now, in Canada, we don't have that. We just have it all open, which we're very fortunate. But those kids, they have to understand the importance of this for security reasons. The other thing I think you mentioned was the transparency. And again, that in of itself is so important throughout the world, because transparency means that everyone knows what's the truth. And so then
Yes.
you can when you know the truth, you trust more. And when you trust more people will want to become part of it, right? So the fact that you thought of that, I think is really something important, and that you addressed it head on. You also said accountability. So the transparency, people were held accountable, and kids, you know, when you're held accountable for cheating or for something else, you know, that's important that you are, and you understand what it means. You understand how to hold other people accountable too, which is a big part of what Imran has been talking about. So and underlying all of that, I would say what you have just demonstrated is a huge compassion. And that's what, I don't know whether I'm correct, but is that what you feel has driven you to be able to do all these things? Like, what is it that is your driver? Because this is a huge project. And to take this on, many people would say, it's too big. I don't want to do this. So what is it that has made you, allowed you to do something so incredible, so big, and not give up?
The thing which forced me to take such a big challenge was the desire to work, the passion that you want to bring in a change in your town, in your province, in your country, to run a successful program which can become a role model for the world so that they can follow that. Any model which shows results can be then replicated, can be duplicated, you know, by agencies, by regulators. I'll come to that point later. So the passion was there, the desire to work was there. The desire came only because I saw those poor families, how do they operate, what was the poverty level of those families. You know, you would see a young boy wearing dirty clothes, standing outside the school and has a desire to get into that school, but he cannot. He doesn't have that money. And whereas the talent is so much in those outside school children, they are brilliant students, but then they do not have the enabling environment because they've never been to the school. They've been to the school for 2 years and then they were dropped out. So you would see that desire on the faces of those children and they would feel helpless. Their families wanted to have a stable and a very decent sort of, livelihood, which they were not getting that because they were going poorer and poorer, and they were helpless. They had no access to schools. There were no schools in those villages, by the way, and they had to travel about 5 to 6 miles to go to the nearest of the school. So this was a big thing that struck me. This was the thing that I saw, hands down experience. And this is the thing which motivated me to work for these kind of children, to work for your country. Because when you committed, when you take the oath in a parliament, and when you take the oath as a minister, then you need to confirm that by your actions, by your program, by the mind, by the intention that you have. So everything was there. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm going to keep going with that a little bit because I'm just wondering, you've got this huge compassion for people, this empathy, this ability to understand how they're feeling. That's the beginning of compassion. Then you acted on it. So is there any way you could go back into your childhood to describe what was your family like? What did you grow up in so the kids can understand this is who you were? You were this kid when growing up. And if you could just describe that, your family, your environment, what was it how did you live?
I did my law degree, back in 1989. And to be in a parliament, you have to be 25 years of age. Only then you qualified to be the elected member, either in the provincial assembly or in the national parliament or in the Senate, which is the highest, the house in the parliamentary system. So I had just become of age, which was 25 years. I was one of the youngest parliamentarians who got elected in 1990 when I did my law degree. And so I was elected as a member of the provincial assembly back in 1990, and I was just 25 years of my age. I was doing my master's, my LLM in George Washington University. I got admission in criminology, and I was doing LLM in criminology. And when I was pulled back, I was pulled back to my roots, to my country, and my family wanted me to be in this parliament because of the family tradition that we have. My father was a member of parliament. My mother was she would run elections. My paternal grandfather, my maternal, everybody was into public service. So public service was the tradition of our family. It is still a tradition of our family. Every child has to do public service. Either you do by your, you create your own organization as an NGO, start working for the social sector, or you get elected, get into the parliament, get a portfolio and start working. So my brother Haroon was the mayor of Gujarat, and my uncles who were elected. So it's been over 100 years that we are into this public service.
100 years for your whole
100
family.
years.
My goodness.
Yes. And in 1920, my grandfather was elected as a commissioner, as a municipal commissioner. So 2020 means full 100 years. So everybody has to do the public service. So this was one thing which I got from my family. It's in my blood to do public service. Now you choose which sector that you want to work in. Social sector, you work for the human rights, you work for the, you work in the area of child abuse, you do the women empowerment, you work for the human rights, you work for the environment, you work for the art and culture. So all things that I've been doing as my passion. So it runs in our family, it runs in our blood to bring in the change, to bring in a change in a common man's lives. You raise their standards of living of a poor person by empowering them through education, by giving them their basics, by giving them their basic rights, right to education, right to their all the other legal basic rights that they have. So it is very interesting. It's very challenging also. I hope I make a point here.
Yeah, so 100 years of family in politics. When did Pakistan get its independence? So
1947. It was before that, yes.
Yeah, 1947. And so what was their involvement prior? Where did they sit? Because for a lot of people here in North America, this is very interesting history. It's something that has not been touched on. And I know that when I started traveling and learning everything, I've just grown a huge thirst of understanding how everything works.
Yes, in Asia, the biggest, after China, the biggest country was United India before 1947, when India and Pakistan were together. It was one of the most biggest countries in the Asian sector. So in 1947, when Pakistan was created, it was first we were living in India, and then Pakistan was created in 1947. So my elders, my grandfather was a freedom fighter, and he was in that Pakistan, we call it the Pakistan movement. The founder of Pakistan was Mr. Jinnah, who created Pakistan. So he was a close associate of Mr. Jinnah, and he did that freedom, movement. He was a part and parcel of that freedom movement. But before 1947, my grandfather was elected municipal commissioner. He was doing as a mayor of the city. This is when the British had taken over India. It was a colony of Britain. British, they ruled in India for 100 years. It was a British empire. It was a colony of Britain, the entire India.
Yeah.
So this is when we got liberated from the Britishers, and Pakistan was created in 1947. So during the British rule, my family was still doing politics and social public service, and my grandfather got elected in 1920. So from 1920, which is a very recent history, we have traveled far off to 2020, when 100 years has been completed, and I've been elected. I had done my 8 full-fledged general elections. I got returned in the assembly for 5 times as a member of provincial assembly. I was elected. People vote for you and you get elected, and then you start attending the assemblies as a member of the assembly. So public service was in our family. It runs in our blood. And I chose the sector of education. And I thought that the biggest empowerment, how to empower a poor person is through education. By educating him, by giving him the education, and then you give them the skilled education, then you give them the professional degrees, they become educated, they become graduates, and then they start working, start earning money, or doing their own business. So education was a path that I chose for this country, for Pakistan, and I thought this is one of the most important areas that I have to work for. So my program, Kim, was then evaluated by the World Bank. World Bank chose 14 programs throughout the world. You know, World Bank keeps helping countries and they do joint programs. They work in the agriculture sector, they work in the health sector, they also work in the education sector. So World Bank chose 14 programs as one of the role models in the world. So my program got elected in those 14 programs as a showcase program, and it became a role model. And they showcased my program. It was called the PESRP, Punjab Education Sector Reform Program. All other nations like the African nations like Sudan, like Nigeria, African states, all those countries have the similar problems like Pakistan has. They have a very low enrollment. They have a high dropout. They have children which are out of school children. Girls do not participate. Those countries had similar problems like Pakistan had. So they chose this program, which was made by me, and they then replicated this program in Sudan, and they also did this program in a couple of African states, and they took this role model and they put it in those countries, and that program started giving them results, because my program was a successful program. And so they had rated it very well, and so then they started funding this program. Now my program is still running, and they then funded this program for another 10 years. They gave me money on this program. So we are doing fine. The literacy rate of Punjab from 42%, it came to 62% in 5 years of my tenure. We had a quantum jump of, from 42%, we jumped up to 62% of literacy rate in Punjab. So it was a very big, increase in the literacy rate. So that was the biggest, one of my achievements that I had. And then I increased the enrollment. The dropout got decreased. There was a huge retention of students in the schools, and girls started participating in schools. We were doing our infrastructure. We had built the boundary walls. Now, no child sits on the floor now. Every child, girl and boy, sits in the chair and has a decent desk right in front of him and her. They've got the basics now. Kim, maybe I forget that point now. The other challenge that I faced was the IT labs. We had no computers. We had no IT education back in 2002. Can you imagine? Just recently, we had no IT labs. We weren't doing any IT education. So we started this computer programs in our schools. We started giving them computer education. IT subjects were introduced. IT labs were established. And we started as IT subject, as a compulsory subject, in our syllabus. So that was a time when we started the IT revolution also took place. Now everybody is now computer literate in Punjab and Pakistan. They're familiar with computers now. We give them a computer education, we give them IT education, and we have the IT labs now in our schools now, in the public schools, whereas there was nothing before 2002. So that was another achievement that I did,
Pretty
in this
impressive.
program.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy, the
Yeah.
impact that you've had.
I also want to highlight one other sector, which was education for the less for the deaf and dumb. We call it the special education, the special needs school. There was a full-fledged sector that we had in Punjab also. That was my responsibility too. It was the most ignored sector in the education department. Nobody would ever cater for those blind, for those deaf and dumb children. It was a curse to have such kind of a child. People would feel shy about their children. They would hide them in their houses. They won't bring them forward to their guests when somebody was visiting to the schools. So I made free education for every special child. We did separate special schools for those special children. We gave them hearing aids. We gave them wheelchairs. We had those braille system for them. And we had a free pick and drop of those students through the buses. There was a free in the entire province, It was a big thing. It has never been highlighted by me, but I thought I must share it with you now.
That's so important.
Yes.
We could use about 3 hours here. Unfortunately, we don't have any more time.
I can go on, and I feel so passionate about it.
And yes, that passion is so strong, and I think it the passion goes beyond who you are. Is the passion for others, and the belief that you can make a difference. This show is about releasing the genius. And I can see that your genius has been released, and because of that, you're releasing the genius in others. And I just wanted to say to all the kids out there and anybody who's listening that the belief that Imran has had in others, that others can do a lot, has shown through hugely, because he didn't. What I'm hearing from you, Imran, is you didn't even question whether you could do this or not. You just did it. And you felt this was what was important. So you were going to move the earth. You're going to move the world to make sure it happened. And you weren't going to listen to, no, it can't happen. And I think that in and of itself is what we all can aspire to. And I want to thank you so much for this, because it really, I'm hoping that it will also allow other kids who are listening to it, other parents. It's more about not just waiting to be told what to do. It is about taking initiative. It is about doing what you believe in, and way beyond yourself. This is so important to do it for others too. Imran, you are an incredible role model. Like I said, I would love to listen to you for another 3 hours. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, and maybe we can...
I know. I'm so sorry. It's a long story which I had to share.
Yeah, we need to do a part two.
Part two. We need to do part 2 and part 3 also, later on.
Yeah.
Because I need to talk about the higher education also, the university sector. There we can talk later about the colleges.
And I would also love just to hear what you were like as a kid. If you're like this as an adult, what were you like as a kid?
We have to talk about teachers training also, revamping of the curricula, and starting new programs. There's so much to talk about.
Yes.
I have so much to tell the world what we've been doing here.
And I think it's important, and we will be having you back. Okay.
Sure.
So for now, this is a great start, part 1 of I don't know how many. Okay. Thank you so much. It's been great.
Well, thank you very much for giving me this chance to address to students who must be listening to this program. And it's always very exciting to take challenges. And when you see those results coming in, that's the biggest, thing that, inspires you, that keeps you going. In this process of my hard work, I lost my health. I could not attend my own children, my own family, because I was giving time to the children of my nation, of my country. That needed a lot of energy, a lot of health, which was required. I was running from pillar to post. I was visiting all these schools. going, inspecting all these far-flung places, talking to the children, talking to the parents, talking to the teachers. Teachers was another challenge. I wanted to have the best of best teachers, and teachers had their huge problems. We wanted to equate ourselves with the developed countries of the world. We wanted our curricula, our degrees to be recognized throughout the world. So I wanted to bring my degrees close to their degrees, where my programs, my degrees were acceptable in Canada or in America also. So we did a lot of work. I mean, I can tell you so much of stories, you know.
So we
Really
are going to have
excites me.
other times to talk to you, and
Yes,
that
yes,
would be
ma'am.
great. Thank you very much. Okay, take
Thank you
care.
so much.
Right, thank
All
you.
right, bye-bye, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Nathan. Thank you, bye-bye.
Wow is all I've got to say. Wow.
Yeah, let's get him back. Okay, I feel like we barely even scratched the surface there.
Yeah, I agree. He had so much to say, and we have so much we can learn from him. I also would ask that all of you who are listening to this, if you have other questions you'd like us to ask him, then please put that out to us, because we'd love to have those questions and give it to him. We will be having some more times with him. Nathan, what did you think? What was?
I want to learn how he's changing higher education right now, because I know that he's sort of that voice towards the government, and he has a very interesting position. Yeah, let's get him on for another call. Let's get it scheduled. And thanks everyone for listening.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.